When I reached out to Daniel Rohr of MN Guitar Repair on Instagram, otherwise known as Minnesota Guitar Repair, he was more than enthusiastic to participate. When we finally scheduled a talk, I started discovering a guy that is very steeped in the history of Minnesota and Brainerd, the area where his shop is located. And he has an appreciation for the historical significance of his region, the historical significance of the upbringing in his family with music, his dad being a bass player and passing on instruments and knowledge to him, his appreciation for hard work, for being of service to musicians around him in the community, and an ever-learning student of luthiery and guitar repair. Daniel Rohr of Minnesota Guitar Repair. Enjoy. Hello, Daniel.
Patrick, how are you?
Hey, good. Thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here. How you doing?
Excellent. Is this a different shop than the one that you've been sharing on Instagram? It looks a little different.
This is the place.
This is the place, just a different angle.
Yeah. So, let's see.
Got a bandsaw back there. You've got that's the proper workstation. That's cool.
Yeah, I can give you a quick little run around if you want.
Sure.
Be happy to show you.
It is an audio podcast, but I am recording video just in case.
That's you right there.
Fantastic.
So this is kind of my workstation, like my main bench, and these are just Menards.
Sure.
If you're familiar with Menards, if you grew up in the Midwest at all.
Not at all. I mean, no. I grew up in Alaska, so explain what a Menard is.
It's like a Home Depot.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, so that's the basic layout. I kind of work on stacks of things right now. I'm not a everything has this little slot kind of person, but
sure.
But it gets
those are client guitars hanging on the wall there.
Well, the one on the left is mine, and the gray one there was my dad's.
Oh wow!
And then I picked up a 12-string from a Decca. Remember Decca Records?
Oh yeah, they made guitars.
Yeah, briefly. Some of those labels started building guitars with their name on them.
Do you mind can you show me that one, please?
Yeah, it's a 12-string.
You had a wild 12-string on your Instagram. It was just a beautiful guitar, but very different looking. It had a nylon string, open headstock, super thin. Oh yeah! Wow, look at that.
It's got a floating bridge.
Fantastic. Have you looked it up on Reverb to see how much that would be going for?
Yeah, a little bit. They're not super collectible or anything. They're not.
A floating bridge on a 12-string. That's got to be a tonality issue.
Lack of tonality issue.
It is a lack of tonality. That's right.
It's so caved in and broken that I bought it from So I grew up in this community. We moved here back in 1976, and
that's Brainerd, Minnesota.
Yeah, that's right. I'm in Brainerd, Minnesota. Yeah, that's right in the geographic center of the state.
Oh wow!
So to the southeast of us, we have the Twin Cities area. That's about where 75% of the population is down there,
including my uncle.
Okay, yeah,
he's in Minneapolis.
Okay, yeah, it's about 75% of the population is down there. I am sort of also geographically in between the three other sort of bigger cities. So we have Fargo, North Dakota, Moorhead, Minnesota, up to the west of me. And then to the east of me is Duluth, Minnesota, which is sort of that harbor off of Lake Superior.
Yes, I went up there a couple of years ago for a family reunion. Gorgeous area.
Yeah, really incredible up there. You're getting up into the Canadian Shield area up there with all the
very much.
Yes, waterfalls, parks, hiking abound. Gorgeous.
Yeah. And if you follow that down, if you follow the river down from there, then you get into between Wisconsin and Minnesota, you get into the Driftless, it's called.
Uh-huh.
So this is a geographic area where the only place in North America where the glaciers spread wasn't ever touched. So you've got a lot of bluffs and waterfalls and waterways and really, really beautiful.
My uncle sent me a YouTube video explaining that. He sent it to the family text group, and we were all just awestruck. It was just fascinating learning about the geography.
Yeah, Minnesota has 4 or 5 pretty distinct areas that are very different from each other. So we're also at the start of the plains in the southwest corner, and then up at the northwest corner is where the Red River Valley was.
Ah, gotcha. Uh-huh.
So
he heralded Red River Valley from the great song, Red River Valley.
Yeah, and that's the Twin Cities were originally called, Minneapolis was originally called Mill City.
Uh-huh.
And so that area was the Mill City, and so all of the mills were on the St. Anthony Falls there back in 1850s, 1880s, probably around that time into the end of the century there. So that at one time the flour mills out of Minneapolis.
Flour mills, okay.
Yeah, that's where you get the Pillsbury and
right.
And that's all down there.
Gold Star or Gold or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the #1 producer of flour in the world at its peak.
Taking wheat from Minnesota farms and North
from the
Dakota?
grain. Yeah, from the Dakotas and from parts of Minnesota, I think. Up there. So,
well, congratulations to your Timberwolves.
Yeah, I don't really follow sports, but I've been seeing
neither.
some names coming around a little bit.
Yeah, I don't either, but my uncle texted me and said, Patrick, I don't follow the NBA, but we're all rooting for our Timberwolves tonight. So I tuned in. It was a pretty amazing finish.
I liked the North Stars until they moved to Dallas. So
when did that happen? What year was that?
I don't know. I remember it. I was probably pretty young at the time.
Yeah.
That's kind of when I checked out a little bit on sports, and then we liked our Vikings too. But it's kind of whatever my dad had on the TV.
Sure.
At the time, but
that's a cool shop, man. You shared some photos. You got like a hammered tin ceiling going on there.
Yeah, it's a drop ceiling with the plastic in it.
Oh, okay.
Each one of those, but it up above there, another 2 feet is a 12-foot ceiling in total. I'm at 10 feet with this one.
Whoa!
And then another 2 feet with because this building was built in the turn of the century as well.
Wow!
And so I'm right in the heart of downtown. I've got
Brainerd.
In Brainerd. I've got an old. This was a barbershop. This was Si's Barbershop.
Oh, son of a gun!
So it's just a single seater, and then it's got hookups for a sink and stuff on that wall. And they've tried to use it as like a nail salon before this, and I think somebody else was cutting hair out of here. And then it had been on the market for a while, and I just, I grew up in this community, like I said, and I was working at the music store over COVID. And during that time, we took a little bit of a break there, and I had started to buy tools, just onesie-twosie stuff for working on guitars, and because that was one of the things I was doing more and more of at the shop. And it's something that I've sort of pursued my whole life, but hadn't ever invested in the tools and stuff. But so I got a few things and just started taking work that I knew I could complete with the tools that I had. And if I needed tools, I would just put the money that I was charging for it towards the tools. And then just sort of went from there.
It's really a good business. It's a good business model in reinvesting your profit into tools that you're going to have for decades to come if you treat them well.
I think
it's a great business model.
I think it works. I come from a line of blacksmiths and house builders, and having your tools around you is always really super important. So I feel more comfortable buying tools than I do just about anything else.
Absolutely.
I can say though that there were a few things that I bought from the big red company that I probably should have waited on a little bit. Just
I'm in that boat. I'm in that boat.
Yeah.
Oh, I really, really need this. And well, you just started in August of 2023. So so I completely get it, because you're like, okay, now I have a client that has something I started around that time as well. And you get one client that has this one-off, first time repair that okay, well, now I need to buy this and that, and but you'll need it in the future. So but then, then they have these amazing sales, and you're like, okay, I have to, well, the other day they had a sale going on, the Big Red, for fret cutters. And it was buy a certain amount and get free fret cutters. I already have a pair of those fret cutters, the exact same. They're going to last forever. And I was asking my wife, should I get a second pair? And I did. So now
I can that's great. Yeah, I can tell you when that comes in handy is when you're splitting your shop.
There you go. There you go.
I have to preface things a little bit by saying that, acknowledging that not everybody has the same kind of opportunity that I would have to do that, because just because of my age and the fact that I had some money, and then I have support from a spouse too, who helps me out. And so being able to do this at my advanced stage, is I'm pretty lucky to be able to have the opportunity to even pursue it. But I think that if you're starting out, you can certainly do it that way, as far as getting paid to do some work and making a few bucks on the side. To make a living out of it is a little different, I think, because I can price the model out here that works for me and for what I to make a living at it is a completely different thing, and that's what I'm learning here. This space really was just for that, knowing that I could afford the space based on the customers that I have and what I'm charging and the work that I do. It's self-sustaining and a little bit more, but I'm not making what I used to make working in telecommunications, for 10 years, that kind of thing. And that was not the highest income either, but it was, something where you can afford your rent and afford a car payment and insurance and and all that stuff. So once you start adding those in there, then it starts to become a little bit different, different process. But I think starting out, I think that you can do that piece by piece.
Absolutely. Sure. And over time, of course, with this line of work, gathering a clientele, like you've probably I've had several clients that have several guitars, and they end up coming back, and pretty soon you're doing their entire collection, and you're their go-to guy. So
I have this theory that I hear you, but it made me as an aside think I have this theory that they bring either the crappiest guitar that they have that they don't care about, or something really simple like a string change, and just sort of chuck it out.
Test you out. I had a guy. I went to his apartment, and he's like, "Well, while you're here, let's go into my guitar room." And he said, "How about?" And I have 3 guitars at Guitar Center right now. I'm like, grumble, not openly, but in my mind. And how about if we take this and and you're right. You get that kind of feeling you out. And one was a very elaborate pickup swap out. One was a standard setup. Yeah. And then one was a complete swap out of all the hardware to gold hardware or something to that effect. But and it's a challenge and challenge accepted, and
it's good in the beginning, I think, to get see as many guitars as you can.
Yes.
I've always had the benefit. I've worked at 3 different music stores over the years.
Oh wow!
So I've had the benefit of sort of seeing a lot of guitars and working with people at the counter, stuff like that, and kind of understanding what the transaction is like. And then so that's been helpful in sort of navigating, the discussion anyway. But I think what I had to do was really decide, okay, what are the things that I can do right now? And I know that I can do them, I'm confident in doing them, because it's okay to turn work away too. I found that a third of the stuff that I see, I just either have to say, this isn't something that I can comfortably do right now, but I can refer you. So you kind of become, that's the thing you also have to do too, is kind of become a referral machine for your area too. And for me in Minnesota, my heart is here. I absolutely love this state. I'm fourth generation here. I have not as deeper roots anymore because most of those people are gone, but I really want to see luthiery increase up here, specifically in guitar repair. It's a lot of people need it here. There's probably more work for me here, and there's nobody up here. There's very few. There's just a really small handful of people that are sort of in the lexicon, among people to bring stuff to. Okay. Otherwise, you go into those bigger areas, like I had mentioned before, Fargo and St. Cloud, Minneapolis and St. Paul, and stuff like that. And I refer people down there all the time, but they're busy too. So, so that's been kind of my one of my side goals behind the concept around Minnesota guitar repair, was not necessarily for that to be, I just really didn't know where I was going to end up with it. And it gives me a little flexibility to move around a little bit. Just based on the name, but I want to see guitar repair and luthiery sort of like highlighted here at least, or maybe I've been talking to people around the state that I've run into online and stuff like that, and trying to get to know them and start talking to each other at least, and then kind of go from there. But
Guitar Garage Talk is brought to you by YourGuitarMechanic.com. Setups, repairs, restrings, and more. Whatever your guitar or bass needs, we can get it done. Offering pickup and delivery service in the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. YourGuitarMechanic.com. Now, back to the program.
The violin luthiery up here is very big.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really big. There's some world-class builders up here. This Stammen Festival, one of the gentlemen up here makes Herdinger. What are they called?
Okay. You're looking it up now.
Yeah, fiddles.
Herdinger.
It's a very Norwegian thing. It's a Hardanger fiddle.
Hardinger. Okay.
Hardinger. Yeah, it has sympathetic strings underneath the fingerboard and stuff like that. They're usually really ornate and stuff like that.
Wow.
So
well, Daniel, that we're talking about the business model and getting started and the principles and the creed behind it, but it makes me, and I didn't realize this until I was looking at your Instagram further. You have future home of Rohr guitars, Rohr being your last name, R-O-H-R. So, and considering the work signature that you have there, the space that you're working in, what's your vision with Rohr? Because you did graduate from the Gallup School of Guitars. Should we backtrack and maybe you could, give me that? What was your logical progression graduating from building electric guitars and acoustic guitars to, what, I'm going to go ahead and repair them because there's probably more money in that. But now you've got the bug and you want to start making too.
Yeah. Well, I got the bug when I was at school. That was what I least expected from there. I knew that they had, that was, I remember, first of all, I want to preface all this by saying that in terms of the fruit on the tree, I'm pretty low on the tree as far as my experience and my time in the game and stuff like that. And so I'm just a baby compared to a lot of the people that I hang out with at the Luth group when I am around.
Oh, hey, I'm right there in the maternity ward with you.
Yeah, baby Luth.
And you log in and you log into the Luth group like and you've probably done like I've done, where you log in with a question and they've got their cameras or their laptops set up in the corner of their shop and everyone's working. Hey guys, I got a question, and it's amazing when you just sit back and be the fly on the wall, how everyone, it's such a tight community that everyone's like, hey Ralph, did you get a load of that blah, blah, blah? Yeah, I tried doing that pickup. I was potting it in wax. And the community is so vast and tight, and it is cool to be a part of that.
For what it is and now, and for what it's becoming now too. Yeah. I think Ian said it in an introduction to one of the people he was interviewing that he started it over COVID, and he was used to working in a room with half a dozen other people. Oof. Working on guitars, and was used to that kind of environment, and now he was all alone in his shop, didn't have anybody to talk to. And I just thought it was such a great idea. I came into it pretty early, but I didn't join into their Patreon pretty early, but I didn't actually join until I got into the shop a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, it is like walking into the room, and when you stay long enough, then you start kind of doing your thing. It's like everybody's
very respectful. They take in newbies, and that's one thing that luthiers love to do, is be the knowledgeable one. And they all have their opinion, but it's awesome because they do it in a really cool way. It's not, you're wrong, you really should be doing it this way. They're very respectful of not stepping on each other's toes, knowing we all know that there's 10 different ways to skin a cat. So none of us are wrong and none of us are purely right. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Doug Proper prefaces it like that too. Last time he was presenting, he said that too, that, just want to preface this by saying there isn't one way to do things. This is, you're trying to get the job done, and there's a lot of different approaches to it. And so this is just one way. I think that for me, coming from the competitive environments of the earlier work that I had and things like that, it's much more competitive out in the corporate world. And I always thought I was a non-competitive person. It just turns out I want to improve myself. But, it's kind of easy. It was easy for me to kind of have my guard up at first on that one. And I also come from a time, and you and I probably both, where the knowledge that you held on to is knowledge that you gained that nobody else maybe had access to, or you had to know somebody that knew somebody that had an experience or saw it done or have hands-on experience now. But now, with the communication options that we have, it's pretty wide open. And I think that the people in the group are reflective of that. And the thing is that goes all the way back to Dan Earlywine, and I would say the shop secrets or trade secrets from the StuMac catalog. That was like, we're going to start sharing now, and that's how it's going to be. And it really was ahead of its time. But now, I think today too, especially if you're getting into it, the options are there. Because one of the first things you need to do if you're starting out in this is know what you're talking about, like really understand the mechanics of the instrument and what you're dealing with, really understand what relief is and action is, and intonation or string length compensation. That's what intonation is. That's also a Doug Proper reference too. So, but I would say 90% of what I know right now has come out of that group. And then the rest of it is, making mistakes, which is
trial by fire.
It's just what it is, it's just don't try it the first time on a customer guitar.
I would love if someone published a book, how to correct these mistakes that you're going to make.
Well, they're all.
Did you just do this? Go to chapter 2. Here's how to correct that. It's said in your bio on your website, MN Guitar. What's your website again, Daniel?
Minnesota Guitar Repair, mnguitarrepair.com.
mnguitarrepair.com. And in your about, it said you were a bass player.
Right.
When did you pick up the bass? Who were your influences? And obviously you started working on your basses out of necessity. And what? Tell me about being a bass player and that in that part of your life.
Yeah, sure.
And I hate to say this because I'm a guitar player, And I've been playing since 1977 when my uncle gave me my first guitar.
Yeah.
But more and more, I find myself, the only playing time I get is with clients' guitars. And I feel like I'm cheating on my girlfriend. Do you find that it's really hard to find time to, you know what, I'm going to allot an hour tonight and play some bass, etc.?
Yeah. So I guess to answer your question on that one, when I was born, my father was gigging 3 nights a week.
Oh, wow.
So it was a time period between late 60s and probably early 80s that there was a lot of local music around here. And my father was always leading bands and always involved.
Was he a bass player as well?
He was a bass player, yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm going with it.
Gotcha. Okay.
At one point, I got this idea that I was going to learn to play the bass, and I worked with a guy up at the music store at the time named Dave Piacentini, and he said, if you're going to play the bass, learn to play with your fingers, finger style.
Traditional.
Okay. And so then I started that way. Of course, he was also the guy that was, modding his Strat to have like the Eric Clapton mid boost in it and stuff like that. And so he was sort of a classic blues guy, and he told me to play with the fingers. And so I just started checking out books because I worked at the music store, and I just started bringing books home and just learning it one string at a time.
Mel Bay.
Yeah, it was actually it was called The Evolving Bassist by
wow.
Rufus Reed. And very, very stepwise, has you working on open strings first. So it's a methodology for upright and electric bass.
Using standard notation, not tablature or anything.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I diverged from it. Once I got the basics down and could had facility on the fingerboard, then I just kind of went with what I was hearing in my head, because
Gotcha. Okay.
that's really what I was interested in, was recording music. And so I write my own songs and record my music. And I had already sort of learned guitar a little bit, and then I picked up the bass. And there was a church that we were involved with that had a sort of one of those upbeat bands at the beginning. And so I could go in there and play the root notes. And I had a really, really cheap Fender. It was one of their first active basses that was affordable. And I'm not going to remember the name of it because it was a really forgettable guitar.
Guitar Garage Talk is brought to you by YourGuitarMechanic.com. Setups, repairs, restrings, and more. Whatever your guitar or bass needs, we can get it done. Offering pickup and delivery service in the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. YourGuitarMechanic.com. Now, back to the program.
So when you were playing bass, were you in any bands? I mean, what kind of genre did you explore? Who were your influences besides Jocko? So were you into jazz? Were you listening to a lot of jazz? How'd you find Jocko? Because he was one of the big names in bass guitar back then? Or?
Yeah, right. So, I think, the internet was sort of starting to open up then a little bit more too.
Mm-hmm.
And since 1995, I've been putting together my own computers and repairing them. And that was one of the side businesses that I had before, was working in IT and fixing computers and getting people's operating systems running and stuff like that. So, but around that time, then I published my own little web page and started uploading MP3 files of my work.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that kind of thing to nobody, basically.
Sure.
Just whatever. There was a site called mp3.com back in the day, and you could upload those. And I felt that
was pre Napster, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, they were just starting to get the file compressions down to a point where they sounded all right, and then they could move them over the internet pretty good. But then, the Napster came along and all that stuff too. So,
is that how you discovered guys like Jocko and mp3.com?
Yeah, mp3.com, and then there was another site. And it might have been kind of a Napster thing. I got involved with talkbase.com, I think it was. It was a forum there.
Okay.
And then because I was interested, because then I was working on my basses too, doing setups and changing my own strings, and I hadn't done any fretwork or anything like that, but I started setting up my own instrument. I think one common thing that I've seen is that people that are prone to do this kind of work have a curiosity, definitely have a curiosity that sort of overrides that sense of, I don't want to say ownership as much as it being entrusted to you. I think it's that entrusting part that I kind of lean into a little bit. You know, it's, you don't want to detach yourself so much from it that, you know, you're swinging it around and, you know, not watching what you're doing. But a lot of us also have a conscience for that kind of thing as well. And the conscience is telling you that you're going to improve this thing to the betterment of somebody else. And so you're really in service to that person. So I don't think sometimes it's not enough just to say treat it as your own, because you're right. You know, those anxieties are in some way fuel you. I've sort of taken it as excitement. I need to kind of calm down a little bit. I want to see this thing complete and functioning really, really well. Yeah. And because that's why I do it. I want, like this afternoon, I had a guy pick up his guitars today, and I just asked if he had a few minutes to plunk around on it, and just to see his face light up. Yeah. And hear what I was hearing, and know that he's happy. Yes. I'm happy. Yeah, getting the work out there and seeing it in other people's hands is one of the things that really, it's an endorphin.
It's that runner's high kind of it's the endorphin rush. It's the conclusion,
right?
The satisfaction.
Yeah. And sometimes that's, you know, getting the guitar back together before your dad comes home.
Good analogy. But and so you're right. So take that, and one of my questions that I ask everyone, the repair specialist, is what suggestion would you give to someone getting into the industry, into the business, taking this on as a job? Is maybe channel the anxiety. It kind of makes me think about the term turn. What is it? Look at the flip side of the coin. Look at the other side of the, you know, there is anxiety, but at the same time, if you flip it and take another look and a different approach at it, there is this obligation they came to you, they entrusted you. You're the guy who's accumulated the knowledge. Use that as a more positive outlook on the outcome, as opposed to, I'm really going to mess this up, or, you know.
Yeah. I
like what you said, that, you know, you're the obligation.
Yeah, I feel that way. You know, not everybody feels that way, and everybody's different in their approach to work, and of course in life in general, and how we sort of view the world around us.
Good point.
I would just say, don't let a mistake ruin your optimism or your curiosity, or whatever it is that drives you into doing that. It's that we all make mistakes, and you know, it's part of the deal. And yes, recovering from those mistakes is one of the most important things. I think that's just part of growing into who you are as a person, and how you approach work, and what satisfies you, and all those other things. And so, yeah, there isn't really a prescriptive way to get into it specifically, other than if you have those earmarks of somebody that, you know, has a curiosity and gets joy out of the guitar, out of instruments, that can lead into, you know, this other type of work, if that leads you down there. But my only recommendation at that point is, if you were all serious about it, really understand the mechanics of what you're dealing with. And yes, I think electric guitars are more forgiving. For sure.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, that leads me back to the Rohr guitars. We touched on it, but what you want to start building?
Yeah. So I've been working on some designs. You know, it's all in my head at this point. I've got a few things on paper right now, but Yeah, I really caught the bug for building when I was there. I think the electric guitar, watching that come to life and being a playable instrument was a pretty unique thing, and pretty special. So during that period, I had developed this idea around guitars that I liked, just in general, and we're talking like the harmonies and the silver tones and things that would have been accessible to somebody like my dad when he was 12, 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
And that would have been around 1962. And if you look at kind of what was going on there, you know, I've got pictures with him with harmonies and silver tones and all the catalog guitars and things like that. So I just loved that style. I loved how accessible it was and how inexpensive they were and how you could just get it through the mail. And so that's kind of along the lines that I'm thinking.
Very cool.
The line idea I have is called 1962. And so I'm basing it around sort of the shapes and the feel and the electronics and things of some of those catalog guitars. Companies like Gutland, Island Instruments, to some degree. I'm going to forget the names of them now, but yeah, if you go out there and look, there are a handful of builders right now that are sort of in that vein, but they're still a boutique, I would say, kind of thing. I'm pushing more towards cheap, affordable, you know,
and nostalgic.
And nostalgic, yeah. I don't know how that's going to look.
Oh, dude, I look forward to seeing how it's going to look, because that's a really cool business model. I like that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of dudes. Are you thinking like CNC cut or?
Yeah.
How are you thinking about construction?
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody said in an interview one time that they went in to visit a guitar builder friend of theirs, and they had a couple dozen necks up on shelves and a couple dozen bodies and all this stuff, and they were just spending their time assembling guitars, and they weren't really sure if they wanted to be a guitar assembler when they were building guitars or not, because there is a point where you get to that. There are some models where people have them CNC'd and built overseas, or built overseas in general, and then have them shipped back, and they're fitting new electronics and doing fretwork and cleaning things up and doing setup and upgrading the components when they get back here. So there is that model. I think right now I'm open to anything. CNC definitely could play a part in that, especially, you know, with the way that the sort of labor that goes into the neck, just shaping the neck. I'm also kind of, you know, I'm working with sort of limited space. I have a house that's about an hour and 15 minutes from here, and so I drive up here to work in this community, but I live in about an hour and 15 from here. And at that house, then I have the opportunity to put in a shop. And so as I'm kind of kicking that around, and I'll also do the repair business out of there, just sort of locate it, just kind of expand my range a little bit if I can.
Okay. And your solid body that you made in the Gallup school, you have an image of it on your Instagram. Well, it's the back of it, showing off the red stain and how it matched a bass that you already had.
That's the TRD. That's the Yamaha TRD.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it the other day. I went, you know, I asked these guys what their favorite tool is, and I love the varied responses. Yeah. And I was doing a repair, and I went, you know what? And my wife walked in, and I said, my favorite tool is the toothpick. I swear to God, you can do so much with a toothpick. I shored down a strap button by popping it into the hole and snapping off the toothpick, and then the screw went right in. I'm applying glue in a crack. I'm moving a pickup screw. You know, you can get a lot done on repair with not, and you did say no right away, but there is a stopping point, don't you think, where, okay, I think I pretty much have the catalog of tools that I need to get 95% of the stuff done.
Yeah, I would say if you get to the fret buck, you've gone too far.
The fret buck.
Yeah.
What the heck is that?
I think it would probably be useful in certain situations, but it's very, very heavy weight. that goes on the top shoulder of the guitar, and then it has a tongue that goes up underneath that you can sort of tighten up underneath the fingerboard extension. So if you're hammering in frets there, that's
like a
then you have
call?
some support. Yeah, it's a big metal horseshoe kind of shaped thing that goes on top of the upper bout, and then it's got a tongue that goes up underneath and then fits up underneath the fingerboard, and then you tighten it so that you have support underneath the fingerboard extension when you're hammering frets.
Yikes! And you went out and you went and got one of those.
Oh, right away.
But you don't use it like you thought you would.
No, it weighs like 40 pounds, and it just sits in the closet right now. Maybe in the future I'll use it, but I don't know. It's just one of those things that was kind of on the list of things to get when you start out. And
sure,
people say you're going to need these things, and so that would be about the only thing.
Well, you did it right because you've got the proper workstation behind you. And I have to ask, Daniel, I fantasize about the proper workstation. I've seen videos. I've had guys tell me that it's their number one tool. They love it. Do you put every repair on the workstation, or is it just depending on the job?
Depends on the job. There are definitely things that I couldn't do here without it. Like probably 50% of the things that I do here. Any kind of fret leveling, any kind of fret work at all, I do on that thing for sure. Any kind of finished touch up, finished work, that kind of thing where I need it to be stable and level. And yeah, I find with the calls and the pieces that come with it for supporting the neck and things. Yeah, very adequate.
It's brilliant.
Keeping it. Yeah,
it's brilliant.
It's super flexible too in that way. So there's kind of a lot you can do with it. I'm just doing the absolute basics with it. And there's people out there that are adding all kinds of cool extensions and clips and stuff like that.
Oh man, I saw someone posted on Instagram the other day a double bass.
Yeah,
being held up by the had the pedestal in the middle of the shop floor. Wow, impressive.
Yeah, yep. That's Whittle Sticks.
What? Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So what is your favorite tool? If you had to pick one.
Yeah. I would probably say
a microwave.
Yeah. Well, the reason I have all that, I have a little kitchenette kind of set up over here.
Oh yeah, I'm jealous. It's awesome.
I was staying during the week at a friend's house, and so I would scoot out of there about 6:30 in the morning and run down here and make myself a pot of coffee. And
nice.
Yeah, I've got a little hot plates over there. It's one of those one of those.
Oh yes.
Yeah, this relief indicator, I grab this all the time. I use it. You got to make sure you zero it out. But yeah, I'm using this as soon as the guitar gets to me. I get it tuned to pitch, and I check the relief there. I'll also do it visually as well. But this one gives me something to shoot for, down the line, so that when customer brings me a guitar and they're at 3/1000ths relief, and it doesn't need other work, that kind of thing, so I can make sure that I'm kind of in the ballpark on that one. And then the digital calipers.
Of course, the calipers,
Yeah, the calipers and any kind of indicator like that gives me some specific measurements are really important for me to kind of know where I'm at.
Absolutely.
Yeah, use it all the time.
Guitar Garage Talk is brought to you by YourGuitarMechanic.com. Setups, repairs, restrings, and more. Whatever your guitar or bass needs, we can get it done. Offering pickup and delivery service in the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. YourGuitarMechanic.com. Now, back to the program.
So now that we're talking about tools, are you tempted to get a 3D printer or dive into CNC? Do you see these being almost turning into essential tools of a repair specialist going forward in the years to come? Because they're getting so inexpensive. They're actually a 3D printer's cheaper than some StuMac tools.
Yeah, I bought one. I'm pretty familiar with 3D programs and stuff, and I'm just learning how to model in the Fusion. And
Okay.
I bought a bamboo 3D printer, the cheapest one they have. I think it was $250.
Okay.
And I've gone through almost 3 spools of plastic
Wow.
on that in
Wow.
the time that I have it. I've printed all kinds of aids for the shop, organizing stuff. I've got this
Sure.
IKEA product called Scottus that, you know, put it on the wall as a grid, and it's got little hooks and stuff you can print on it. And so I've got all my stuff hanging up there. I've got little screwdriver caddies that go in there and all kinds of work for around there. So as an organizational tool, as a tool, a 3D printer for repair, yeah, you know, I would talk to Ian Davlin about that. I think he's pretty far along on that. A few other people too are kind of delving into that a little bit more. I think that might be something it's very, very useful. I think there are certain calls that you can print out too. Like Ian had just posted a pick guard call that goes underneath
in the acoustic. Yeah.
In the acoustic and things like that. So yeah, it's repeatable. It's definitely something that would be useful. CNC, on the other hand, I think CNC is definitely not even the future. It's current. I mean, there's a lot of major companies have multi-head CNCs that are cutting their necks already. But as far as the home builder, or as a business builder, you know, or like a boutique builder, yeah, for sure. I don't think there's anybody that I've talked to that is thinking that it's not useful in one form or another. Just, you know, the inlay work and things like that you can do, the repeatability of getting that neck shape, just the time. And I think Tom Dahlia, you had him on, had Tom on earlier, and he says that somebody's working for you. You know, you got this CNC machine that's doing that work while you can go and do something else. So yeah, as a time saver and things like that, for sure, especially if you got something else to do.
And that begs the question, Daniel, then have you used your 3D printer for any repair at all? Or is it strictly what was that task?
I've tried.
What was that?
So I needed to get a clamp over a fingerboard extension because the brace that I was trying to clamp, if I put a jack directly, you know, there's 100 ways to do this probably the right way. But as I was looking at it, not the right way, but 100 ways to do it and probably accomplish it. But the way I was looking at it, I needed to have something under the sound hole, basically covering the sound hole to support a jack underneath. Now, if I thought about it a little harder, I probably would have just realized that I could probably stick something up there temporarily and reach. But anytime I tried to cover the hole, I couldn't reach inside to finish the repair. And so
was this a semi-hollow, like a jazz
not
box
acoustic?
or
No, it's just a regular dreadnought.
Gotcha.
And I decided that I was going to go into my 3D program and print out this very elaborate call that was going to, you know, sit on either side of the back brace, and it was going to have a extra piece that was like kind of under the fingerboard extension, and then that would support it from the outside, all this other stuff. And I tried to print out a couple of those, and I just couldn't get the measurements right, so I abandoned that one.
Toothpicks.
That's the answer. Otherwise, I created a couple of like little clamping calls, just flat pieces that I glue rubberized cork to. So
it's like solving a puzzle. It's almost like a game sometimes, isn't it? This will get done. How can I approach this? You know?
It's like Ian says, the ship in the bottle. So
well, there you go. And I commend you for taking that complicated approach, just as a challenge to yourself to see if you could actually. And then and if it did work, boom, write that down, put that in a special box. Hey, the next time this kind of thing comes up, hey, I happen to have this little doohickey that I created that can take care of this task.
yeah. Everybody's got the box of calls.
Absolutely, yeah. And miscellaneous stuff. When I saw Dan Erlewine, oh man, he even did it on one YouTube video. He said, "Sometimes I use saliva because it's the best." Da 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 da.
Dude.
And it's you know, save that sawdust, save the dust from that Graphtec nut. You never know. So I've got this whole drawer of little jars labeled with this and this dust, that and that dust, saliva.
Yeah, it's really easy when you're starting out to kind of take on the idiosyncrasies of everybody else, because they're the leader in it, and so you're thinking, well, this must be the way it goes. And
But if Dan Erline does it, the Obi-Wan Kenobi, then it's got to be right.
Yeah, he's kind of been around a little bit, but things are really changing. This is, first of all, kind of a disclaimer after the fact that anybody that I'm quoting, I didn't get permission, but right now I'm just kind of living on my elders and my in the community, and so a lot of the information and ideas that I have really comes from them, and I have some things that are my own experience right now. But so this has probably been the best time ever to get into luthiery and in repair. It's also kind of not the worst time, but it's not. There's just a lot of information out there, and I think if you're trying to measure up to kind of what's out there, it can be kind of daunting, and so I think it's just best to sort of go on your own way and know that not necessarily your own way, but take stuff with a grain of salt and kind of go from there.
Yeah. What's the weirdest repair that you ever had to deal with? What's the oddest? Like, I'll never see this again, and I'm glad I pulled it off.
A guy, let's see, somebody sent me, so I have appointments on my website and then also a contact form. And somebody sent me a contact form and said that my guitar had blown up and I'm not sure what to do. It was my mom's. And
right away I can tell you said no, because you said he reached out, but you never actually did it.
No, I did it. I said, all right, send me some pictures, because I couldn't, based on the description, I really couldn't figure it out. But this guitar, it was an acoustic guitar. It was just a standard sort of dreadnought shape, very, very inexpensive instrument, something that's held together with the lacquer, or the polyurethane they sprayed on it. And it had blown apart. It tipped over and the neck had popped off. There were strings everywhere. The nut had flown off. The saddle was off. Thing fell apart. I said, you know what? Yeah, I want to take a look at this. And so he brought it in and told me the story, and I was like, this neck didn't have a mortise at all. There was no, it was just literally just glued on flat to the body with no joint in it.
What the?
Yeah. So, I threw a bolt in there and reinforced it and glued it back on and got it out the door. Made him happy.
Yeah. And now I have to ask, why isn't that on your Instagram? That would be awesome. That'd be an awesome share. I was looking at your Instagram going, I'm going to see if I could find as wacky as, no, pretty safe, pretty safe.
Pretty safe. Yeah. That's kind of the, I mean, when you get into social media and things like that, I think it takes a really long time for you to develop, a kind of voice that you are comfortable with, and to show the work that you're doing and things like that. It's a different sort of elevation when it comes to sharing certain information and stuff like that. And so, but I'm at the point, where you show all your successes and things like that. And
right.
And that's sort of the, that's kind of the game on that one. That isn't necessarily, it's a little beyond me at this point in terms of being thoughtful enough and knowing who I am as a repair person. I'm still learning that. And I feel closer now than I have been before. But when I decided to do this, I was really, really motivated to do it. It's one of the things that gets me out of bed in the morning is the opportunity to work on these things. And but I still need experience, and so you just kind of get out there, and I can sit in my office and make a business plan and try to work out every little detail, or I can just sort of bite the bullet and put the money down on the space and just start building it. And I did that for 6 months, back and forth and hauling everything in here. just learning what it is that this kind of work really entails. And I'm just scratching the surface at this point.
Sure, absolutely.
It'll be a year in August, but I've learned a ton just being here, and everything that I know has come through the Luth Group as far as learning the business and pricing and all of that stuff. And so they've been just massive help for that.
Pricing has, for me, been the toughest. And ironically, the name of my business is Your Guitar Mechanic, right? And it's one thing you hate with mechanics is you take the car in for something and then 2 or 3 other things have to happen, and you don't find out. So it's a little ironic that, I'm concerned that when customers bring something in, I need this done. And thankfully we get to meet face to face with them, because you're like, look, if you want this to be playable, then you're really going to have to, because they don't know. And pricing is always it's hard to find a baseline. And I've been to other websites around the world for repair specialists, converted Italian euro to American dollars, British pounds, like, oh, is that how much they charge?
Yeah.
Where did you start out with that model?
Yeah. I kind of started
it's an ever-changing thing too, isn't it? Like, oh, I used to do setups for this much. Really, I could be doing it for this much.
Yeah, I like that you used the mechanic kind of idea there, because I think in a car shop, they're pretty aware of their overhead. They know what they need to get that part, to pay for that part, to have somebody install it, to keep the roof over their head, to pay their employees their insurance, everything that goes down the line in that. And once you establish that, then that's really where things start to take off. I think I started like everybody else did, or like you did in a way. I was searching around looking for published price lists and just getting a feel for the area, and kind of pricing my stuff competitively based on the job. I found that pretty quickly that just didn't translate very well. So within the first couple of months, I started to change it. And that's, again, back to the Luth Group. And Doug Proper was giving some really, really good instruction on that, establishing a burn rate, as he refers to it. And this is how much it costs to keep things going. And, also if you want a salary, So I think there's a few steps on the process. First is to really understand, first place I went was with the state. So I went to my Secretary of State's office, found out what it takes to have a business in Minnesota, what kind of licenses I might need, that kind of thing. So we have a couple things going for us in Minnesota, and that is labor is not taxed. Now, someplace like New York, everything is taxed. So, when you're talking to somebody like a Doug Proper, guitar specialist, they're adding all that in. And so you definitely need a license and stuff like that. I wasn't not operating a retail operation. This is strictly labor costs. Anything that I need in terms of parts, I'm paying the tax for, and then that goes on to them. Now, the state of Minnesota makes it very clear that if you meet that 50% criteria in the repair, if the material you're putting into the guitar is 50% or more of its value, then sales tax starts to come in. So they don't want you assembling parts and thinking that you're going to sell a guitar, that transaction, since that's 100% new material put together, that's something you have to collect sales tax on. But in terms of the repair business, so your state is going to be a little different. Your locality might be a little different. Licensing requirements are really, guitar repair is sort of, I want to say off the radar completely, but it's really, really hard to find a category when you're starting to do this research and find, okay, what kind of business am I? Am I agricultural? Is it a service? No, it's not really a service, because that's, cutting hair and, and all those other things. It's like a little bit different. So labor is just labor here. And as far as the tax for the city, if you're to have a retail operation, you're selling new products from a wholesaler or something like that, then sales tax is where that comes into play. So I think knowing those things kind of to start with, understand where the taxes are and what to expect from that. Um, and then really understand your overhead. I've got, I'm in a
Your consumables.
I'm in a 10 by 12 room here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very big. It's an old barber shop in downtown, and the rent is a set amount. I know how much the electricity is going to be, a set amount. All my internet and my website and my scheduling and my accounting program and all those things, insurance. I have 2 forms of insurance too. So it's like, once you get all that together and gather it together, then you're like, well, how much do I need to make an hour to keep up with this? And then just kind of go from there.
Yeah.
And establish a rate that is going to be comfortable for you and comfortable for the people in your community. And I've really had no problems with that, as long as, I'm upfront about it. It's, if you're going to come and see me, I got a set rate for you to come see me, and it's for me to do a proper evaluation. And the people that come to me, they appreciate it, because there's not a lot of those, not the options that I offer in the area. And they they know what they're looking for and what the cost is outside of here. And so I keep an eye on that stuff too, and I talk to people and find out, what should my rates be, and
and geographically, you have a pretty wide berth where you're not stepping on any other repairist's toes.
No, not here. I mean, I'm in competition with the local music store, but they
me as well. Here in
they're
Concord,
old friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's interesting. So if you walked into the music store, they know you and they know you're a repair guy.
I'm buying stuff from them all the time.
Okay. Well, that's a good method, because there's, in Concord, North Carolina, where I'm at, I'm kind of out in the country. I'm about 10 miles outside of Charlotte. And there is a music store in downtown Concord that's about 6 miles away from me. And I went in and I met the guy, and I said, yeah, I repair guitars too, but I didn't advertise myself as a professional, right? So I don't know if he was I didn't hand him a business card or anything like that. But maybe that'd be a good way to, hey, if you have anything that you can't, any backlog, or have you pitched that idea? If you guys have any backlog, you could bring it to me, or vice versa, or.
Yeah. So, I mean, the job of the music store is for them to stay in business. It's like for them to stay in business. And there's a case to be made for, foot traffic and people coming to, set up a guitar with me. They're going to need a set of strings and all those other things, and they can pick them up at the front counter. I'm not capturing that sale. But I like the drop-off service model. Coming in a couple times a week to pick up guitars that either they can't repair or something that you could do there, and then working a fee based on that. None of those really work. I mean, if you I don't know, it's so individual. I've heard stories where in the end it worked for a while, but it just wasn't going to allow them to grow and things like that. But I think if you're somebody that's kind of getting on your feet underneath you and just need more challenging stuff or whatever, it's a good way to get a customer base that can then come to you in the future. But you're kind of taking business away from them, and so it's a little complicated, and I get it. I think that for me the focus has just been on offering services that they don't really.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, pretty much. And they I get text messages all the time with a picture of, look what came in today. And one thing that's nice about the music store is just the foot traffic.
Oh yeah.
But it's a kind of a double-edged sword here too, because not only do I not have enough space for more than one person and a guitar up there in my entryway,
right.
But the constant interruptions, and you don't want somebody to open the door and you're like, okay, time is money, let's go.
Yeah.
$20, up front, let's go. But I mean, that's essentially what I do with my appointments. But so I do a fair amount of screening
Okay.
And I think that's kind of how I set it up, just knowing that I wasn't going to have the sort of retail space. I would love a retail space, honestly.
Sure.
That to me is sort of, when I was 12 years old, I started working for my parents' business. They ran concessions all over town and out at the racetrack. And every weekend I was, hauling 50-pound bags of popcorn up and down the stairs. And, we had popcorn machines and snow cone machines and hot dogs and caramel corn and you name it. And so I spent my summers, doing that on the weekends.
Instilling a good work ethic in a young kid.
Exploiting a good work ethic.
Exploiting, there you go. That's another way of looking at it.
There's and I try to explain to people that, when I grew up, cash, when you got paid for something, it showed up on the kitchen table in a pile.
Oh, wow.
It was just a different upbringing. But as I look further and further back into my history, into my great grandfather, and he was a farrier and a blacksmith, and he was bring the horse up and throw some coins in my hand, and that's kind of how it's always operated. And I think I feel comfortable working in that kind of business, but I have the tools around me through the internet and with the programs that I have in my website, and just the knowledge to build that stuff and put it together to where I've got a pretty seamless setup that I can do everything kind of between a few windows. I can manage the business from my phone. I've got a local telephone number that goes straight to voicemail that's converted to an email that comes to me.
Yeah. Yep.
That kind of stuff. So some of the older school cats around here aren't super comfortable with that, and they want to work over the phone, and I'm happy to do that. If it's the right job, and I get along with the person, and we're cool, and I'm cool too. And musicians too, they tend to sort of go to the front of the line a little bit. Certainly gonna help those, and that's another thing too. Get involved in your local music community. We have open mics here every month, every couple of weeks around here.
Well, there you go.
Try to get out to those too, and I'm not throwing my card around or anything like that, but I'm there to genuinely. I love music, and so it's just
be a face in the crowd.
Opportunity for me to get out there, and I've got a bridge reglue that I'm just finishing here, and I know that guy's going to be playing that guitar in a couple weeks at the store, and so that's exciting for me to see, to restore that for him and to relieve that anxiety. And
Guitar Garage Talk is brought to you by YourGuitarMechanic.com. Setups, repairs, restrings, and more. Whatever your guitar or bass needs, we can get it done. Offering pickup and delivery service in the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. YourGuitarMechanic.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, Daniel, that begs the question then, marketing, advertising. Besides Instagram and being a face at the local shows, how else do you market? Do you have any other little things that you do, or?
Yeah, I think first is, I started with the website. Once I had a name established or down, then I registered that with the state, and then I built a website based around that. Did a fair amount of research just to make sure that the URL was available and things like that. And then, on the website, you can put some pertinent information in there that's relative to your location. And then because the algorithm looks for relevance. I know that people talk a lot about search engine optimization and things like that, and it's there's just so much out there that they're kind of hitting the high marks. And there's a lot you can do to make sure that your image and your blurb and everything gets into Google ads and things like that. If you want to kind of go down that road to localize it more, it's a pretty good investment. But with the amount of noise that's going on just in general out on our phones and everywhere else where you would actually run into it, it's better to optimize yourself for your location. And so Google Business is a free service. They're just vacuuming up all the all the stats and everything to who's looking
Sure.
for what, where, and
Sure.
when. And you sort
Yeah.
of give that over. Now we're in that age where you just sort of give that over. You're not
Sure.
going to hold on to it in
Yeah.
that sense. So once you get your little dot on the map, on Google Maps, and it starts getting into, again, that's that relevance again. So not only do you have a name and what you do, then you have a location and what you do. And then once you have that, then things start to sort of bump up a little bit, so that if somebody in, the town over next to me, I had a 180-mile round trip the other day.
Whoa.
From a guy who found me, which is the furthest one.
Wow.
And he built his own guitars. They're the coolest little things that you've ever seen.
Neat.
He's a helicopter mechanic and just does it on the side. And he's got a lot of really cool little features he throws into these things. And he's just an enthusiast, but needed help with the nuts and some fretwork and stuff like that. And so
is that the Partscaster? Partscaster that you put up on Instagram? Cool looking guitar. It had that kill switch button on there. Yeah. Cool guitar.
And I don't even know if they play. I just think they're sort of fascinated with the different sort of mechanics of it, of course. And yeah, it's got like an aluminum backplate from a sign or something like that, and still got the reflective stuff on it.
Yeah, and a coin. The toggle switch had a coin of some sort.
Yeah,
what was that?
It's a little ring.
Oh, you've got the guitar there. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, well thank you for that guy for sharing.
Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, it says caution maximum torque. It's a switch for some kind of an electrical device, 32 volts
cool.
DC. Yeah, it just has a maximum.
Freaking awesome. And a Floyd Rose.
Yeah.
The dreaded Floyd Rose.
It's not super great. I was looking at it like, yeah, it was for a first guitar, it's crazy to go after a tremolo and everything, and it's like that kind of thing. But yeah, he pulled it off. Like,
it's pretty decent looking guitar.
Guitar, yeah. So
a lot of antiquing on the body there and all that. Cool. A lot of relicking.
Yeah.
You had a nylon string acoustic on your Instagram that you said a local legend.
Yeah.
Who's the local legend? What's the story?
Gentleman, his name is Carter Keene, and he's from Milwaukee. He grew up in the sort of post-punk, the early post-punk scene out there, and was a songwriter with a couple of people that are local legends there as well. And I ran into him at a retreat of some kind, and he was singing a song about losing his memory or something, and I just connected with the lyrics, and so I was like, oh yeah, how you doing? And I connected with that, and so he's one of the most prolific songwriters that I've ever met, and he still writes, and it's all on that little Yamaha GS or GC cheapy little thing, and but he's had that guitar as long as I've known him. And, so he finally brought it in to get it cleaned up, and it was dirty.
Nice. Oh, really? Okay.
It had hair from about every dog that he's ever had inside.
Yeesh.
And we had a good laugh over that. I gave him the option to replace the tone ball, and he decided to replace it, or not replace it, to put the tone ball back in or keep it out as a relic, and he chose to put it back in. So.
Okay.
Yeah. The tone ball being a big collection of fur and dust.
And he said to keep it in?
Oh yeah. I gave him the option. I said, it's probably a lot of mojo in there.
Yeah. Like memories of dogs past.
Yeah.
We got Rover in there, and there's Spike, and then there's a little bit of
Yeah. So
Daniel, I don't want to take your time is super valuable. I understand that, and I do appreciate once again that you joined me for this conversation, man. Yeah, greatly appreciated.
Find some useful information.
Oh, absolutely, man, and I can tell that this conversation can keep going if we're not careful. But I do end every podcast with the one question, and you've probably given a little bit of thought. I'm amazed at how much thought some people put into it. And It's the research is baffling sometimes. It's just, I thought it was going to be a super simple thing, but I'm glad. I'm glad because it means people care and about music, and that's what it is about. And just being a little part of it, being a repair guy that you're looking forward to seeing that guitar on a stage later on in the week and an open mic with the bridge that you repaired. It's cool, and it's cool to be a little part of that, and I completely get it. The question would be, what 3 guitar tunes would you put on your Desert Island Guitar mixtape? And if you have any bass tracks on there, definitely throw in some bass tracks.
Well, Portrait of Tracy by Jaco Pastorius, of course, would be one to start with.
Gorgeous.
Continuum. I mean, all of that stuff. Like all of his albums are pretty astonishing. But that's also sort of the biggest target when it comes to that too. Victor Wooten had a really big influence on me, has influenced a lot of people too, just through his book and everything too. So as far as bass players go, those would probably be some of the bigger two. Stanley Clark.
Oh, there you
stuff
go.
like that too. So I think that they probably expanded my palette a little more than anybody else did. Victor definitely expanded like the feel around some of those concepts too, and kind of what music is and what you're trying to communicate as a communicator.
Are you a jazz guy?
No, I'm not a guy. I'm not a guy of anything really.
Okay. I
just kind of take it all
music in general, man.
I just, I was just so connected to it from such an early age. It's just part of who I am. So any noise I find interesting. Any kind of music, I find some interest in it, and I go back and forth between everything. Really, my son is a producer and an engineer and teaches music, and he's in electronic arts, and so he does some really far out stuff. There's really sonically complex and really quite beautiful. And I used to record my own noises and things like that too back in the day. As far as guitar players, I did put some thought into this, not so much in the specific songs because first of all, my brain I can't remember specific songs very well on that stuff, but I want to say in terms of influences, I think it makes sense that Roy Clark would have been one of my earliest probably influence.
And as a kid, all I knew of Roy Clark was Hee Haw, which is sad because he really didn't get to shine. But those moments that he did, you're like, phenomenal guitarist.
Yeah.
It was like the back of his hand. It just came so naturally, and he had fun with it. He always had a smile on his face, and it was like his guitar was telling a joke, and he was laughing along with it. It was just the coolest stuff, and he did fun things with it. And just slides and making it talk, making it cluck like a chicken, and just Roy Clark was just he's such an underrated guitarist.
Yeah, and it's kind of
not as heralded as he should be, I guess.
Maybe not. I think he's been described as fearless. I really like that. But yeah, I mean, just in terms of influences and my ear, I guess, getting attuned to guitar, Roy Clark would have been sort of a natural. It's kind of my earliest memories, of course, because growing up in the Midwest, you had your Saturday night bath and you'd sit around the TV with your hair drying, watching Lawrence Welk and then Hee Haw.
Yeah.
So, or vice versa. I forget which order they were on, but
yeah,
that's probably where I got introduced to Roy. As far as guitar players go after that, I think my next big influence would probably be The Edge from U2.
Oh, yeah.
I think one of their songs from the October album called Rejoice, there's something about his tone and song structure and the use of that instrument in that setting that I'd never heard before. And their Unforgettable Fire album, just as a guitar player, in terms of an influence, in terms of sound, I would have to go to the Edge on that one.
Phenomenal artist. His canvas is just expansive with one guitar, and granted layered effects upon effects, but just gorgeous tonal. And it reminds me of, when I first discovered him, I got the Rohr album when I was in high school. And we went on a family trip to Denver, Colorado, and I found out that they were playing at Red Rocks in Denver. And I said, Mom, please, 16-year-old kid, please let me go see U2 in concert.
Did you see that show?
You know what show I'm talking about, right? Live at Red Rocks that created Under a Blood Red Sky. And I told my mom, I said, please let me go. No, we're here for the grandparents. Come to find out, read the review in the paper the next day. Oh my God, the fog rolled in. Just the coolest freaking concert. And then suddenly there's a live album. Suddenly there's a movie. I'm like, I could have been there. I could have seen The Edge, But a great choice.
Yeah, definitely somebody that influenced me sonically in that way. He probably wouldn't tell you that he's the greatest guitar player ever or anything
he wouldn't. He wouldn't.
And he does throw leads in there too. They're just not, they're understated. They sort of serve the song.
Absolutely.
U2 as a band, I'm not really thinking about that too much, but The Edge as a guitar player, and for what influenced me, definitely would be
great choice. Great choice.
And then probably for another, I guess, influence, I know I'm going down this influencer kind of
please
road,
do.
But I would have to say that Joe Satriani falls right in there.
Have you ever seen him? Have you ever seen The Edge?
I have. I got The Edge's autograph.
Wow.
And I did see them play on their, I think it was their Zoo TV tour, or it was possibly somewhere in between there. Yeah.
That was a way back.
Yeah. It wasn't too bad. A Baby in Space, that whole thing that they had with the little baby and stuff. And my wife and I are walking down around Minneapolis before the show, and we're outside maybe Target Center, wherever they were playing, and we saw people lined up at one of those metal fences, and we're like, oh, I wonder what's coming through here. And it was the limo, and sure enough, they stopped, and Bono and The Edge got out, and the only thing we had on us was a clean disposable diaper, and so we got our autograph from them.
So you have this autographed diaper?
Yeah, we're just new parents, we're just new parents, and we're just taking a break and sort of reliving our past a little bit. And The Edge was like, I think this is the first time I've ever signed one of these.
I think? He doesn't even know for sure. He thinks it might be the first time.
Probably the first one of these I've ever signed.
Oh, that's amazing. So what is it like where is it now? In a frame somewhere? Or?
No, it's in a box. It's waiting for me to do something with it. But yeah.
The Edge. Leak-proof Edge.
Bono.
The leak-proof.
I think it was Bono was the one that said he'd never signed something like that before.
Oh man! So you got Bono and The Edge to sign the diaper.
Yeah, I got them both on there.
Dude, that's phenomenal. That is so funny.
Yeah, that was one of those sort of rare things,
I went to, speaking of Satch, we'll get back to Satch. When I lived in Atlanta a few years ago, the Hendrix Experience came through town, and it's got Zakk Wylde and Satch and Eric Johnson and all these great guitarists paying homage to Hendrix and doing nothing but Hendrix tunes. And Billy Cox was there, and he was being a bass player. You'd know that name. Billy Cox. There was a line of tour buses outside the theater, the old Fox Theater in downtown Atlanta, and there were a group of guys, like 5 or 6 guys, hanging out, and they're like, photos and Sharpies, and they're like, we're waiting for. And I said, hey, have you seen anyone? They said, yeah, Billy Cox walked by, but he's not giving any autographs. And I'm wearing a giant Hendrix shirt with his face plastered on the front because I'm a huge Hendrix fanatic. And Billy Cox walks out of his bus with his entourage of a couple guys, and they're going into the theater, and he looks at my shirt and he pulls out a Sharpie and he signed my T-shirt. And I was like, and all the guys behind me are like, Mr. Cox, Mr. Cox, and he just signed my shirt and walked away. And I went, oh, I wasn't even expecting. Yeah, it's like, this is going in a frame somewhere. I can't believe it. That's the coolest stuff, man. That's the coolest stuff. Signing a diaper, you got to. That's just amazing. And of course, all these people have these elaborate. Here's my guitar edge. Can you sign my? And you guys have a diaper. That's just
pretty much
fantastic story. I love it.
That's all we could find. That's all that was in the purse at the time.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah.
Daniel, thank you again, man. I really appreciate your time. Super valuable. It was great talking with you, man. I really look forward to seeing Rohr guitars and where you're going to take that. It's a cool idea.
Yep, that's in phase 2. It's happening a little sooner than I thought it was going to, but I'm going to be relocating half the shop down to my house. Excellent. And then start to think about doing that there. My next project that I have is I went to on eBay and I found the least expensive Telecaster kit guitar that I could find for $62.
Whoa.
And I'm going to bring that. I've got that at home right now, and I'm going to just go through it piece by piece and document, what it takes to put this thing together and what the quality is like and what you can do with it, and sort of lay it out price-wise too. How much did the tools cost for this?
Oh, wow.
That you need to do this particular part of it, stuff like that. Just kind of see where it's at.
Daniel, thanks again, man. You have a great one, and stay safe and take care.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.